Okay, and let's start with cat cow, just to ease in a little. So you come to into your all fours. Great. Yeah, and in your own time, take some cat cows, lovely. And as you know, this is a really effective way of mobilizing the spine. And in doing so, you're mobilizing the pelvis, the whole shoulder joint, all of these areas are moving. And it's also an opportunity here to activate the feet and the hands as they press into the ground at whatever level of effort feels right, feels sustainable for you. It's also an opportunity to connect with the breath. So just a few more rounds of your cat cows, moving with the breath, aware of the breath coming into the body, aware of the breath leaving. Great. Okay, come back to center. Yeah, sit up, ease out the wrists. So all of those things that I'm sure feel quite intuitive to you by now, but and also it can, by applying some pressure to the hands and then feeling it in the fingers and the wrist, it's kind of like a nudge to us to pay attention to these joints as well, to the wrists, to the fingers, and just take the opportunity to ease them out. Okay, so um, let's, from all fours now, just practice coming into low lunge from all fours. And let's really break this down so that you're present with the whole journey rather than it just being a means to an end. So if you start with your all fours, actively pressing the hands into the mat, actively pressing the tops of the feet into the mat, again, to whatever degree feels okay for you. And then draw navel gently towards spine. Find a little bit of that action of the tailbone lengthening. So you get that tilt back of the pelvis, but without rounding the back. Great. And then keep all of those actions, but press into the left foot a little bit more now. So you're lighter on the right foot. Still pressing into both hands, navel still towards spine, still that slight lengthening of the tailbone. And then as you next inhale, extend the right foot out to the side. Great. Just pause there for a moment. So here, like you might feel a bit of stretch, a bit of opening on the inner thigh here as well. It can be quite good for this, and you can explore pressing the edge of the right foot into the ground here as well as part of your steadying and your centering. And just check again that you're still pressing the hands into the mat, you're still pressing the top of the left foot into the mat, and you've still got navel drawing towards spine. You've still got that slight tilt back of the pelvis. Okay, and then from here, start to creep the right foot forwards, heel toe it, however it goes. And can you just notice, like, to what degree you're still able to press the hands, press the feet, to what degree you're still able to keep navel towards spine. You take the foot forwards, and then when it's leveling with the hands, then you can creep it across. Press the left hand more firmly into the mat so you can release the right hand, and then creep the right foot over so that the foot is between the hands, and you can come up onto fingertips. And yeah, if you've got bricks, you can work with your bricks. So I know that that's a movement that you'll have taken plenty of times before, but helpful, I think, to break it down, because it really can feel like just a functional movement, and just noticing the part that not just the press of the hands and the press of the grounded foot place, but also that action around the abdominal muscles as well, all supporting you. Because it can be so easy with these things to kind of like wriggle and, kind of just want to get it into place, and when you slow it down, you notice where you're kind of compromising the integrity of the body along the way.
Yes.
Great. So if we think about low lunge for a moment, so I know you've done plenty of work with low lunge over time, but just first of all, being aware of the role of the press of the hands and the press of the feet, so the press of that back foot. And one thing that one like little detail you might explore a little more is the relationship between the press of the back foot into the mat and how that might help bring a little bit more sense of alignment to the hips. So as you press the back foot into the mat, does that give opportunity for that left hip to draw forwards a bit more, as well as perhaps noticing a bit more opening in the front groin on that side?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, and it's not, that's not a kind of that's not a command to your body to press the hardest and do it, but just notice that relationship. And then you can do the same with the front foot as well, the relationship between the press of the front foot and what you can do with that right hip. Does the press of the front foot facilitate a bit more drawing back of the right hip if that feels like it aligns the hips a bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you just naturally did this a bit anyway, but what you could do from here in your low lunge is then draw back into half splits, it's called, but drawing back. So you draw the hips back, keep pressing into the hands, keep pressing into the top foot until that front leg is straight or straighter. And then what you can do is walk the hands further back, and particularly if you're working with bricks, that's great. You've got whatever height you need. Yeah, lovely. And then you can get more active through that front foot. I can't quite see your front foot here, but if you have the toes pointing up so that you're really bringing some opening to the back of that leg.
Yeah.
Both hands pressing into that back foot, pressing into the mat. You can either stay there or you can explore sliding that foot further forwards. Just watch out that the back knee stays comfortable. And I mean, if you're really wanting to bring more opening around the groins, you can take that further, slide that foot further forwards to, as always, there's nowhere like to get to. It's just exploring and just notice how that feels. Great. Yes. Yeah. So you're using the press of the hands quite a lot to support you there, but you're staying active through the feet. So you've still got that feeling of the feet, that rebound energy of the feet giving you that sense of lift. You're pressing down through that front heel as well as the top of the back foot. So yeah, and then you can draw back again, come back to your low lunge, and that can be quite a nice thing to do, is to alternate between that half splits and low lunge.
Yeah.
And then also from your low lunge, there are other options that you can explore. So for example, to really encourage that activation of the feet, which in turn also invites that kind of opening around the groins and so on, then you could bring hands onto hips or bring palms of the hands together in front of the heart. And that's where you find out like how much the hands are playing that a part in supporting you and how much the feet are. So it encourages the feet to really step up and support you. And then you can draw shoulders back and down, find a bit more lift in the chest, that kind of low lunge feeling of the chest lengthening away from the pelvis, as well as on the exhale, an awareness of the weightiness of the pelvis releasing down. How does that feel with hands released?
Yes, it's all right. It's just not quite as comfortable on the lower back.
On the back. Can you revisit the action of navel towards spine, tailbone lengthening? How does that feel?
Yeah. Just come back a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously go easy with that. And if it feels like it's aggravating the lower back, then stay with the hands planted.
Yes.
But also, over time, I won't keep you in this for much longer, but also over time, you can continue to explore that relationship between the press of the back foot and how that might help facilitate just a little bit more like turning room for the pelvis, because it's that length in the lower part of the spine that you're wanting to find, isn't it?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So there are other variations that you can then explore in low lunge. We don't have to do them now if you feel like you've spent enough time on this side, but if you're up here, then you can explore a twist, for example.
Yeah.
You can have hands on hips as well if that feels better. You can also do a twist with the hand still planted. So if you've still got your hand down on your brick, you can bring right hand onto the hip and then twist in that way. It's a bit more of a heart opener. So you've got your left hand down, sorry. Left hand is down on the brick, right hand is on the hip. Yeah, that's it. Go just again, I'm sure you're aware of your back, but just go really steady with the lower back here.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. So coming into a low lunge in that way, you can then sort of be in your low lunge, draw back to a half split, come back to your low lunge, maybe bring hands up to hips, take a twist. And then from there, let's make our way into high lunge. So to do that, I've got fingertips on the mat. You could still use bricks actually. But press the hands down, tuck the back toes under now. Press into the hands to support you as you draw the back knee up. And then step the back foot forwards a little, press into the front foot, hands on hips, and then draw the chest forwards and up. So it's asking a lot of your front leg at this point. And then you can adjust the length between the feet if you need to. So if you feel like you need to tap the back foot further forwards, then do, or you can wriggle it back. But then you're in that low lunge position where the weight is really coming down into the front foot and you're still active in the front foot and you're pushing out through the back heel. You can also, of course, increase width between the feet and that can help with balance. So if it's feeling rather wobbly, take the right foot out to the right a bit more. Great. Lovely. And it's the same thing here in terms of the rolls of the feet in relation to the alignment of the hips. So again, just awareness of that as you really push out through that back heel. Does that feel like it supports you in maybe that left hip drawing a bit further forwards? Super. Yeah. And again, from here, you can either be here for a few breaths, or you can take any variations, palms of the hands together. You can take the arms up. You can also, again, you can take a twist here, palms of the hands together, and then revolving around to the right. So usually with twists in lunges, it depends, but most often twists in lunges, you're turning towards the bent knee. Great. And then if you come back to center. Okay, so with your hands on your hips, we're going to practice a step through now, but not just stepping forward. You're going to, in a moment, step the back foot forwards and draw the knee up in one movement. So we've done this before, but really press into the front foot, tap the back foot forwards a little. Great. Keep pressing into the front foot, and then on an inhale, draw the left knee forwards and up. So you end up drawing the knee into the chest. Great. You could maybe see how it feels to take the hands underneath the thigh of the left leg. So you interlace fingers. Great. Yeah. I mean, the hands can also go to the front of the knee, whichever feels best for you. And then by all means, in fact, just pop your foot down for a moment and let's just take a look at that position. So just to kind of recap or to revisit with this. So this step through, if I just show it here a moment, over time you get a feel for like where that foot needs to be realistically for you to get that sort of continuous movement all the way through. And although this isn't quite like when we practice something like Warrior 3, where we really have the weight over the front foot before we kind of let the back foot leave the ground, it's not that. But as this back leg and foot comes forwards, we get further over that front leg. And as we do, so if you just pay attention to this leg for a moment rather than what's happening in the left leg, as we get further forwards, then we kind of go into mountain pose mode where we press into that foot and straighten up through the leg. So that standing leg is in mountain pose. We're actively pressing the foot into the ground, active through the front leg. It can be easy when we're coming forwards in this sort of way for this to kind of stay quite wobbly for a while because we're really focusing on moving the left leg. So we kind of come forwards and it's still kind of quite bendy on that leg, where the sooner you can straighten up through that standing leg, that's going to be really helpful. It's also going to make a difference to the tilt of the pelvis, which means you can lengthen the tailbone more. All of those things helping to support you and give you stability. So yeah, maybe practice that a few times. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So just imagine the rest of your body is in mountain pose.
Yeah.
Like once you arrive there. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, great. Okay. And so when you're taking the hands to the back of the thigh, think about that being an opportunity to bring a bit more back and down of the shoulders. So when you take the hands to the thigh, that's going to cause the shoulders to come forwards a bit more. So if I just show it for a moment and kind of exaggerate the movement, like you're here, and then you do that, so you can see the shoulders draw forwards. But can you then use the press of the hands to help find that action so that you still get that lift in the chest, so you don't kind of round into the spine? Nice. Yeah, great. Okay, and then release down, and then you can have a bit of a shake out. So if we're thinking about this as a sequence, you've gone from low lunge, any variations that you might take, to high lunge, again, any variations you might take, and then you're doing a step through. Ooh, knee comes up, and then pausing for a few breaths there. And then so that kind of brings you into a balance, and then you can come down, come back to your mountain pose. So one thing that I find helpful when I'm, or for helpful to remind myself when I'm practicing balances, is to look out for when I am falling into the trap of like trying to just keep the balance, hold the balance for as long as possible, like at all costs. And actually what I've found is that what's more effective for me anyway is to just give myself plenty of opportunities to practice the balance, to come into it and come out of it. And actually one of the things I find helpful, not just as a reset, but to increase my awareness of my body in that moment, is in between balances. So if, for example, we take that one that you've just done and you've taken this and then you bring the foot down, is to come to mountain pose. So to keep moving between the state of center of gravity being shifted and being absolutely centered as we are in mountain pose.
Yes, yes.
So that there is that what you're developing is a deeper awareness of like, this is, you know, this is how the weight is coming down into my feet now, you know, this is what's active. And also because then you can draw on that as a memory in the body when your weight is shifted. So you feel that mountain pose, you feel the, you know, it's never more accessible than in mountain pose, to me anyway, that awareness of the lengthening of the tailbone, the tilt back of the pelvis. So that then when you do this, you can kind of be like, well, you know what, all of this is still in mountain pose. I feel it, I remember it in my body. I've just been doing it. I'm still in mountain pose, apart from this.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're in your mountain pose, yes, you can treat it as a bit of a reset, but I suppose I just mention it because I know also it can be easy to treat it as a kind of like, oh, I'm off the hook for a moment, you know, I'm just standing here and resting. Whereas actually you can just, you know, and noticing you've taken the balance on one side. So when you come back to mountain pose, how does it feel on that side compared to the side that's been engaging in a different way, you know? So just coming back to the balance on that same side for a moment. So if you come to your mountain pose again, okay, so you're coming into it differently. And so that's interesting for the body and good practice as well. So this time you're going to raise the left knee up again from your mountain pose. Now, what I find helpful, so explore for yourself, but what I find helpful is to bring a bit of a bend to the right knee and then raise the left heel up. So the same kind of thing that we do if we were preparing to step back now. So that then what you can do is press into the right foot and use all of that kind of like held energy that's kind of waiting, almost waiting to spring up with the bend in the knee. Use that then, so that as you inhale, you straighten up through the right leg and raise the left foot at the same time. And then you can again bring hands to the back of the thigh. Like maybe you explore bringing the hands to the front of the knee, see how that feels. I just thought that looked like it might feel a bit tight for you. I don't know.
Yeah. Around your shoulder.
Yes, it all kind of tightens everything up, doesn't it?
Yes.
So, but that the way of coming into that, as opposed to just keeping this right leg straight and lifting up, means that you're not kind of compromising the hips so much, I think. And then from there, perfect your mountain pose, perfect that lengthening of the tailbone, that feeling of the shoulders drawing back and down, even if it feels like nothing's happening in the shoulders. Can you still kind of feel into that lift of the chest? Lovely. Yes. And be there with the breath. Inhaling, finding that lift in the chest. Exhaling, tops of the shoulders softening down. Follow that exhale down through to the sole of the foot. Great. Nice. So there are other things that you can do from that balance if you wanted to. So for example, you could keep the right hand at the back of the thigh, bring the left hand onto the left hip, and then draw round into a twist.
No.
That's fine. I mean, so you're
Yes.
keeping the knee straight. So if I just show you here a moment. So if you're here, then you keep the right hand on the left thigh. It is the left, yeah. And then left hand on the left hip. Keep the knee facing forwards and you're just revolving belly and chest round. Great. Yes. Nice. Yeah. And then lovely. And then, oh, again, you keep revisiting your mountain pose actions so that you know what happened. Like so what I could see there as you turned round was, which is like a very natural and normal way that the body responds to this, was a kind of leaning back here. So that's where, again, that press into the foot, straightening of the leg, lengthening of the tailbone, lift of the chest, all helps to kind of bring that core integrity back to the stance. Yes, great. Yeah, and I really like, you know, that looks really helpful, using the brick as a support for the toes, you know, so you're still, yeah, because again, like, as we know, but like there's nothing to prove to anyone. There's no kind of like, you haven't done a balance if you haven't done it this way. So having the brick in that way, you know, you're still shifting your center of gravity, you're still very much working with balance, and you just got a little bit to kind of
bit of security.
a bit more reference point, isn't it, for your
for
your foot? Absolutely. You know, and from there, maybe sometimes you explore just like drawing the toe up off the brick for a moment, or not, you know, or bringing it further down.
Also, if I fall out of it, I only go to the brick.
Yes.
And it's easier to come back in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the main thing that I thought we'd work on as far as balance goes. So so again, like thinking about that sequence, you get well, it's not the only thing actually, because we'll step back in a moment as well, which is great balance practice, but it's the practice of balance of this movement here coming through. And then it's the practice of being here and maybe taking a revolved action. So if you wanted, like if you were doing a sequence and you wanted to build in a bit more, then of course you could take some actions of like raising and lowering the heels whilst you're at the top of the mat, if that has felt like a helpful thing for you for working with balance, you know, kind of whilst you're at the top of the mat, maybe you raise and lower heels. Yeah, lovely. And the more you like, as you're doing there, just doing them really nice and slowly, like the slower you can do them, then the more opportunity there is to really work with balance, you know, including being aware of all the wobbles and the micro wobbles that happen when we balance, you know, because our body is doing such an amazing job of just adjusting all the time to keep us centered. So being aware of the wobbles, I think, can be a really helpful, you know, because there are so many things going on with balance, of course, and when you throw into the mix the perception that we have that if you're wobbling, then you're kind of not doing it successfully, really unhelpful, you know. Whereas if we can kind of get used to observing the wobbles and actually just knowing them for what they are, which are like, you know, that's the cleverness of the body, that it adjusts so much, and like
Yes.
from tiny to big wobbles. Like even, someone that is apparently standing absolutely still in the balance, there are still wobbles going on. They're just perhaps not quite so perceptible. So just welcoming those wobbles as like what an amazing job your body is doing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
keeping you centered.
Yeah.
So what you can then do with this sequence is reverse it to do the other side. So from your mountain pose, put your hands on your hips. And yeah, sorry, actually, what we just want to do first is take some time in balance on the other side. So yeah, let's do that first. So if you bend into your left knee and then raise your right heel, and then as you press into your left foot, straighten up through your left leg, raise your right knee up. So you're in balance on the other side. And let's take some time with this. So you can come in and out of this, of course. But then from there, explore, yeah, exactly. And then use the press of the hands, find that lift in the chest. Yeah. So when you're pressing on the thighs, like you can see that you're kind of your upper body is then leaning back more, which is to be expected. So can you kind of anticipate and guard against that a little more by, again, getting really active through the standing foot, lengthen the tailbone. So before you take the hands behind the thigh now, can you revisit your mountain pose action? So you've really got that lengthening of the tailbone, navel towards spine. Great. And then maybe see if the knee might raise up a little more to meet the hands. Lovely, lovely. Yeah, and keep lengthening the tailbone. Keep pressing through the standing foot. Super. Great. Next time you're in it, can you be with the breath a bit more? Inhaling, finding that lift in the chest. Exhaling, awareness of everything softening down. Nice. So then the other thing that you can do here is keep the left hand under the thigh, right hand onto the hip. So whenever you're ready, but just a prompt to take that revolved action, revolving around to the right. So, and taking a revolved action when you're balancing, that adds in the extra challenge of the eye, of the gaze moving. So, quite often I'll say when we're working with balance, find a point to gaze at, so that you've got a steadiness coming in through the eyes that can help counteract the kind of panic messages going to the brain. So when you're revolving around to one side, then the gaze moved. So just be aware of that really, and see if you can consciously sort of steadily track the gaze. So it's like you're still following a point with the gaze. Right. Lovely. Whenever you're ready, you can come back to mountain pose. If you want to do a bit more exploring the balance there, then feel free to, but ease out when you're ready and then come back to your mountain pose. And observe, just being aware, being really aware of your center of gravity. So I know in classes before I've talked about, imagining like a plumb line dropped from the crown of the head all the way down. So it sort of comes down sort of through from the perineum all the way down to the ground. So can you be aware of that center line running through the body? Can you be aware through the press of the feet, a feeling of rebound energy drawing up the body, like a kind of a lightness in the body? And how does it feel with the addition of tailbone lengthening, navel towards spine? Does that help create a little more lightness? So that there are fewer parts of the body where it feels like there's kind of just a weightiness that is unsupported. So through those actions, can the body feel more supported?
Yeah.
Okay, so bring your hands onto your hips. Bring a bend to the right knee. Raise the left heel up off the mat, so you're just on the ball of the left foot. Right. And then you're so you're going to step back with the left foot in a moment. Keep that bend in the right knee and keep pressing the right foot into the ground. So that will help keep the right knee protected. So when you're ready, step the left foot back to come into your high lunge or to sort of make your way in. Yeah, great. Lovely. And then adjust as you need to, adjust width between the feet. So as always, the wider apart you have the feet, then, you know, that can sort of help reduce wobbles. Lovely. So again, be aware of the role of the feet here. So the press of the feet, the press of the front foot, and the push back of the back heel supporting you, and also just noticing how the actions in the feet can help you access the hips, that alignment of the hips that we explored a bit more in low lunge on the other side, but same thing in high lunge as well. Great. So yeah, the more you can, so it's not, of course, it's not about like trying to get to some perfect arrangement with the hips, but more that this is an opportunity to kind of really find some engagement, contraction in around the hips to kind of work these areas. So left hip drawing forwards, right hip drawing back. Great. And then from here, you've got hands on hips. Take an inhale. As you exhale, revolve belly and chest round towards the right. So you might just take a tiny turn. It might be a big one, whatever feels okay, particularly for the lower back. And then again, can you stay really active through the feet? Can you still have a sense of the pelvis releasing down? And you still have that action of shoulders drawing back and down and chest lifting. Lovely. And again, like you're working with balance here because you're moving the eye gaze. The eye gaze isn't centered anymore either. Lovely. So the more, and stay aware of that alignment of the hips as well to help keep you centered here. Great. Okay. And then if you draw back to center, and then from here, just thought we could you could explore drawing down to low lunge. So see how this feels, and if it doesn't work, you can come into it a different way. But again, if you've got bricks, that's handy because you can kind of reach for the bricks to steady you. So from your high lunge, place the hands on the bricks and then wriggle the back foot further back as much as you need to, and at the same time bend into the front knee as much as feels okay for you until you feel you're in a place where you can bring the knee to the ground. Great. And then you may well need to adjust. So as is often the way with lunges, it's coming into it might not be kind of stylish and smooth, but adjust as you need to. Great. And then as you've made that transition, you'll probably have been pressing quite a bit into the hands to support you. So once you're then in your low lunge, can you bring your awareness to the feet again so that they can really sort of come back into action here. Again, that relationship between the press of the feet, the alignment of the hips, and can you find that action of tailbone lengthening down, navel towards spine. Right. And of course, the hands are still active here. The hands are still working for you too. And so you can, you know, I'd recommend spending a bit of time with both, with the hands active and then releasing the hands and coming back and forth into your half splits as well. So you could come down to low lunge, take some breaths there with feet and hands active. Then you could move into your splits, half splits. Nice. Yeah, lovely. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Always sort of adjusting so that the hands are underneath the shoulders whenever you're sort of moving in your half splits, and then you can either keep them there, you can slide the front foot further forwards if you want to. Right. And then the other thing that you can do in your low lunge, really press into the feet, bring hands onto hips, or palms of the hands in front of the heart, whichever you want to explore. Right. And then the other thing that you can do here is revolve belly and chest round towards the right, round towards your bent leg. Again, might be a tiny movement, might be a bigger one, doesn't matter. But can you keep the hips aligned? Can you keep the feet active? Great. Yeah, and come back to center. Maybe one more half splits if that feels good. Nice. Does that feel good, the half splits?
Yes, yes, yeah, pulls it. Yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a nice one to work with as well. And I mean, you know, what you can also explore with the half splits is you're going to wherever you want to go. Is another thing that you could explore is sort of drawing forwards and down. And again, it might be a tiny movement, might be a bigger one. That definitely brings more opening to the hamstrings. So yeah, not forcing anything, but you know, maybe just see how that feels. And you're staying active through the front foot. So although that might feel obvious because the heel is really pressing into the ground, like stay active through the whole of the front foot.
Yes, yeah.
Great. Okay, and so then as far as the sequence goes, so you've made your way back to low lunge on the other side at this point, is that you then reverse the movement that you took before. So you can then press the hold on, you've got, what have we got? Right, yeah, you've got right foot forwards, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So press into the left hand, navel towards spine, press into the top of the back foot, raise the right hand up, wriggle the foot over to the right, then bring the right hand down, press into the right hand. So you're pressing into both hands now, navel still towards spine, you're still pressing into the top of the back foot as you take the foot back and then draw it back in. So I know that you know that movement, but it's just breaking it down so that you're aware of what parts of the body are working and where your body tries to kind of shortcut its way through, you know, which our bodies all have the things that they do to kind of skip over this bit, or, you know, So it's just, you start to notice those bits then, you know. I notice that when I get to here, my abdominal muscles struggle to support me fully, and it goes into my shoulders a bit more, you know. So it's just noticing those things for you.
Yes.
And then I would suggest a child's pose. So you don't have to come into this quite yet, but just to kind of talk through the rest of the sequence, I'd suggest a child's pose of some variety, and then come back to the sequence and do it all over again, other way round.
Yes, the other side. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, very helpful.
So, yeah, is there anything, because I want to allow time for you to then come into a sort of do a little bit of counter pose and some shavasana, but before we do that, is there anything?
No, that's fine. I can follow that. Yes, I can follow that. But it is what I need.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that feel helpful in
Yes.
terms of what you're looking
Yes.
for?
Definitely.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, so if you make your way into a child's pose, then how does child's pose feel for you at the moment, Angela?
Yes, good.
Yeah. Okay. So take whatever variation of child's pose feels good for you. So if you were doing this as partway through the sequence, like, so you could do that, and then, as I said, do the whole thing again on the other side. And then when you've done that, again, pause in child's pose for a little. So an opportunity to let go of effort in the body. So the poses that we've been working with tend to require quite a lot of muscular effort and contraction. And when we're working with balance, added into that as well is a kind of a firing up of the nervous system, of the sympathetic nervous system. The brain is kind of perceiving you know, that we're needing to go into survival mode almost as our center of gravity shifts. So an opportunity in child's pose to let go. So the body starts to feel and starts to know that it is supported by the ground. Okay, and then just take your time to make your way up to sitting. And just sit up on your heels or near that for a moment. And then, as you might anticipate, we've done a lot of closed hip work. So a good idea to then do something that's open hip to just counter that a little before coming into Shavasana. So there are all kinds of ways you might do this. So really it's a case of finding what works well for you. Again, with this sort of sequence that we've just done, potentially there's quite a lot of holding involved. So one thing that you might try is a seated Baddha Konasana. So I've got some height under my sit bones. I know I certainly need that to keep that length in the lower spine. So I'd recommend that. And so here I've got palms of the hands on the fronts of my ankles. I find that the easiest way to kind of keep a hold here. Another thing that you can do is explore using a belt. I mean, generally, and I know that you've kind of experienced and explored using a belt with Baddha Konasana in various ways, particularly when we've been lying down before. But, you know, you could also use a belt here. So you could take a belt. I've got a belt here under the outer edges of my feet. And what that means is that I can then have the hands in exactly the position I need them so that I can still draw the shoulders back and down. So it can kind of give you that added benefit too. But either way, then you can either be seated here with the breath. But what you might also do as you first come into this is explore taking some butterfly wing actions with the knees, just to kind of ease out a little. As I said, there's a lot of holding of the poses in the sequence that we just explored. So just bringing a little bit of movement here to the hips might feel quite nice. And then being in stillness. If this feels good and you want to kind of like stay in this a little longer, you could also take a more supported version, like with support, like, you know, with bricks under the thighs, or even nicer actually for something like this would be kind of to build up a load of cushions or something like that you could do. But what I would recommend is, even if you're doing a version like that, keep either the press of the hands or keep on the bricks, so that you keep that length in the spine, you know, so that it's the difference between this, which is like genuinely naturally what my body does if I'm in Baddha Konasana unsupported by my hands, between this and this.
Yeah.
So other things that you can do, I mean, just being in Sukhasana, for example, after closed hipped work can be good. So you could sit in Sukhasana. If you're kind of really feeling it for the twists in a session, then you could take a twist to each side. You could do some breath work. There's anything to kind of like gradually calm the nervous system down a little more. Before you then come onto your back. So in a moment, I'll just support you in a little bit of Shavasana, but just before we do that, just to show you other options for open hipped work, if none of what I've just gone through feels quite right for you, would be a supine Baddha Konasana, like we quite often take in classes, or variations of happy baby pose. So one of those being knees into chest, but then taking the knees out wider towards the armpits. Another variation being raising the feet up, soles of the feet towards the ceiling. So I'm not going through these in detail now, but I'm just suggesting them as possibilities for a little bit of hip opening before you then come to Shavasana. And if you do none of those things, Angela, if it's kind of like, I'm going to do that, you know, lunge sequence, and then I've just got time for a quick Shavasana, then what I would recommend then is in your Shavasana, take some height under the knees. So I know, again, you're sort of familiar with this concept, but this is a bit much, you know, but I just don't have one of my blankets to hand right now, but a rolled up blanket I would say would be a better option, and it's a bit wider as well, just so it brings that slight opening to the hips without any effort at all. So yeah, that's another option. When I say that's a bit much, it's a bit much for me. Like, you might find it perfect for you.
Yeah, normally I find that better, but I've got
great.
Today, but
yeah. No, that's great. And because it, you know, again, just depends so much on different shapes and tilts of the pelvis and what then feels like it supports your lower back.
Yes.
So another thing that you could do is legs up the wall. And then if you wanted to, you know, and if you wanted to do legs up the wall as your Shavasana, you know, I find that a lovely thing. And what you could do before you sort of fully come into your Shavasana that way would be to, again, take like a Baddha Konasana kind of arrangement with the legs against the wall for a little bit.
Yes.
So any of those options just to kind of ease off.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you settle into your Shavasana, aware of the contact between your body and the ground. aware of the breath moving in your body, arriving into the body, leaving the body. With each exhale that you observe, and you have a sense of the body softening, letting go of effort, letting go of holding. A sense of the front body softening and releasing down into the back body, of the back body softening and releasing down into the ground. No effort in this release. It's an awareness of the natural softening and release of the body with each exhale. Trusting in the ground to hold the body. Trusting in the body to soften and release. Trusting in the breath as it comes and goes. Knowing that this space is held for you right now. Starting to bring some deeper breaths into your body. Really bringing some movement back to your body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, perhaps rotating wrists and ankles. Taking any movements, stretches, sighs, anything that feels good. Taking your time to make your way into any comfortable seated position. Bringing palms of the hands together in front of the heart. Taking a moment to be grateful to yourself for making the time for this session. A moment for us to be grateful for the practice of yoga, for this means of connection available to us. If you want to, taking a moment to think of anything else that you're grateful for right now. Bowing your head towards your fingertips. Releasing your hands. Whenever you're ready, raising your head, opening your eyes.
Thank you. It's been very useful. Very useful sessions.
Pleasure.
Yes.
If you have any questions, and because I appreciate sometimes that comes up afterwards,
yeah.
like when your body says in 2 days' time, like, what did you do there? Or if you have any questions, then do get in touch.
Lovely. Thank you. I will.
And I'll share this recording so you can at least kind of pick that apart a bit for a sequence if you want to use that. And as you can imagine, you can make that a pretty quick flowing sequence, or you can make it last an hour as you kind of really explore variations off it,
Yes, that's right. Yes, but I do find it useful to use the breaks.
Yes, no, I think that's great. Yeah.
I use them quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's fun because it's knowing your body and what it needs. And I think like it's just recognizing, and I can see that this is what you don't do, Angela. You're not using the bricks in order to kind of say, oh, look, I'm balanced, or look, I haven't fallen over. Like you're using them in very specific ways in order to be able to kind of access it all a little more.
That's right. Yes, it's not putting all the weight on it or staying in it. It's coming in and out using it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I do. Even when we do tree pose, sometimes I use them for the same reason. Just helps me not go all the way down to the floor. I just can.
Yes. And the nice thing, and the nice thing with the bricks is because you can have them on all different height settings. You can explore, can't you? It's like, oh, how does it feel today if I have it higher or lower, or how's that feeling, and
yes. So I do use them. All right, then I will see you on Wednesday.
Great, thanks, Angela. And I'm so sorry about Friday's booking.
No, not at all. Didn't matter. Just I sort of looked in my diary and I thought, oh, I can do that one. And
normally it would have been fine as well, but I was taking my daughter all the way over to Bridgend for her driving test.
Oh no!
Well, because waiting lists are about a year.
Yes.
So, but it was all in a good cause because she passed. So.
Oh, wonderful! Oh, wonderful. So you've lost the car again now?
Yes, it's quite strange looking out on the driveway right now and it's not there. And like, oh, where's the car gone? So,
yes. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I'm glad she passed. Our neighbour, he's a chief examiner, and he examines the driving the driving examiners.
Oh, okay.
And he's forever going all over the country. They're desperately trying to recruit more examiners. But he said they're just not up to standard.
Oh,
he just can't pass them. No.
Oh, so he's desperate. Maybe that's part of what's causing the backlog. Because for a while it was just post-COVID. There was a massive backlog, but now it's just crazy. Like she did a test in Western, didn't pass, and so went on to do another, and she's going away to Australia for a year in a couple of weeks. So she really just wanted to get it sorted before she left.
Yes.
And I mean, a lot of the places around here, there weren't even appointments to book, and anywhere there was, it was like October.
Oh.
So I said, just look everywhere. We'll just do a road trip.
Yes, that's right. So is she traveling around Australia?
She's going out to Perth first. Yes, is the short answer. And she's taking her younger brother with her as well. So we will actually have an empty nest for the first time ever.
For the whole year?
No, he's only going for 3 months. That's his current plan anyway. So.
Oh, wonderful. Matthew started in Perth. That's where he started, and then worked his way round, and then didn't come back.
Yeah, well, we are
You know,
prepared for that possibility. Very
yeah,
excited for her. We traveled in Australia
yeah,
and we were almost exactly her age.
yeah,
Like she's then flying over to Sydney, and as is the way, even more than when we were doing it, like they know so many people out there already,
yeah,
like friends.
yeah,
She's done other traveling, she's got friends dotted all over the
yeah,
world, and
yes, yeah.
um, very excited for her and kind of hoping she does stay out there long enough to warrant a visit, to be honest.
Yes, we did that when Matthew was out there for the year. We visited um, towards the end or partway
Mm.
through, and he was just so well, he was thankful because he was traveling with somebody else or was friendly with somebody else whose auntie ran a hotel down on the beach as a manager, and her grandparents were going over as well. And I said, can you find us some accommodation? So they put us up in, he found this hotel for us with
Brilliant.
the other grandparents were there.
Perfect.
And then we had a big room and he was allowed to come and stay with us for free.
That's
So,
great, isn't it?
so that was lovely.
Ideal.
And he thought it was lovely to have a bit of comfort for a few days.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I definitely remember that feeling as a backpacker,
And then he had a tooth abscess, and I said, well, I've got to get you to a dentist. And luckily on Saturday, it was a Saturday, they stayed open to see him and sort him out.
Mm,
And so that was good. But
yeah.
just as he was poorly, we were there, and yeah.
You were able to look
Yes, except
after
he
him.
should have been in Melbourne. So we booked 9 days in Melbourne, but he wasn't. He was in Sydney
Right.
by the time we got there. He said he'd be in Melbourne, but he wasn't. So,
Yeah. Let's lay plans.
so be prepared. You
Yeah,
never know.
to chase after them around the country.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, but it's well
Yeah.
worth going. You might
Yeah.
join her for Christmas. You never know.
I'm not going to lie, I have been already having a little look at accommodation possibilities
Have
around that.
you? Yeah,
Just, a bit of research.
absolutely. Just got to get the flights though, because they're expensive then.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got to be quick on the flights now.
Yeah. Yeah. Also keeping an eye on Skyscanner. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
Great.
well. All right then. Take care. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Angela.
much.
See you Wednesday. Take care.
Yes. Bye. Bye.